Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom has a fun new mini Thanksgiving release. And as you can see from the picture, there is a new gnome add-on set. So let me show you everything that's included in the release. I'll start with the stamp set Thankful Acorn. This does have the coordinating outline die. Currently, this set is not available for individual purchase. This is the freebie you will receive if you order at least $60 of products, and at least one item needs to be from the new release. This set includes the large acorn image and 2 sentiments, and I like that there's an outline die for the sentiments along with that image. Next is the Thanksgiving add-on set for the Gnome Dies, and this is so much fun. I love all the different images. There's a new hat. The gnome can hold a pie, a turkey leg, sunflower, corn, and you can also dress up your gnome like a turkey. So cute, and it's perfect for Thanksgiving. Next we have Gobble Up Gnomie Stamp and Coordinating Outline Dies. Lots of great sentiments. My favorite is just a little corny card to say hello. I love all the fun sentiment stamp sets that Jaded Blossom has released to work with their gnome dies. I was never a gnome fan until Jaded Blossom came out with their gnome dies. They are so much fun. The next item is a new add-on to go with the Octagon dies. We have the Turkey add-on set. You can use all those different dies to create an adorable turkey treat box, or you could also put that on the front of a card. To create the treat box, you will need Jaded Blossom's Octagon Treat Box Die set, and that is sold separately, although the turkey add-on set can be used independently. The final 2 items from the release are some stencils. My absolute favorite is the sunflower stencil. There's 2 different pieces, and look at this gorgeous design. You'll use one stencil to create the seeds or the inside of the sunflower, and the other for the petals. This second set is an acorn stencil, and it also has 2 pieces. One stencil is for the top of the acorn, and the other is for the bottom. It's a very cute design and perfect for some fall cards. And I will be using both of the stencil sets in this video. For my first project, I'll be using the turkey add-on set for the Octagon Treat Box. I've already gone ahead and assembled the treat box. I have several other videos showing how to assemble the box, and I'll add a link at the end of this video if you want to check that out. And here's a look at the original Octagon Treat Box die set. You'll need 2 pieces to create the box, and it also has the option to add a handle. Now I've decided not to add the handle for my little turkey. I've cut out all of the pieces, and now it's time to assemble. For my turkey, I cut out 2 sets of feathers. I have a teal and also a yellow. I'm gluing down the teal first. On the yellow feathers, I put some foam dimension just on the very end, and then I'll put liquid adhesive on the bottom. Then I'll adhere the yellow feathers on top of the teal feathers, offsetting it slightly so you can see just a peek of that teal background. I love the fun stitch detail on all the different die cut pieces. I think it would also be fun to use the turkey feather die cut pieces separately on a card. So once I have all of my feathers attached, I'll work on the turkey's body. I'll start with the eyes. I use some white cardstock and black cardstock. Just glue those 2 pieces together. Then I have some orange cardstock for the beak, and I did pop that up using some foam dimension. I'll also add some foam dimension on the back side of the turkey, just underneath the head. For the body, I'll be gluing it down directly. And I have the rest of the body pieces, and I use a lighter brown cardstock for that. I guess it would be the wings. It has all that little stitched wavy detail on there. Before attaching my turkey onto the treat box, I'm adding a little bit of highlight detail using a white gel pen. I'll add those details to the eyes, the beak, the feet, and also the feathers and the main body of the turkey. This is an easy way to add that extra little touch to your projects. I've also cut out the feet, and I have some foam dimension on the back side. Before attaching them, I'll put the main turkey body onto the front of the Octagon Treat Box. I put some liquid adhesive on the back side. Then I did flip over that treat box so I could get my hand on the inside to press everything firmly in place. Then final finishing touch, I'll attach the 2 little feet. So there is my little box all finished, and I did end up making 2. Now moving on to card design number 1. Decided to start off with the beautiful sunflower stencil. I'm using a stencil mat from Waffle Flower. It holds my paper and also the stencil in place. The ink colors are all from Catherine Pooler. For the very center of the flower, I'm using the icing on the cake color. I decided to go with the very traditional sunflower colors. For the petals on the sunflower, I have the Tiara color and also Sauna. I'll start off with Tiara, which is a lighter yellow color, adding it to the very center of the sunflower, just right outside the seed area. Now I'll use the Sauna color, which is a darker yellow, add it to the ends of all the petals. Trying to make sure to get all of those little areas. The stencil mat makes it so easy to use since you don't have to tape down anything. Now you can if you're afraid your paper or your stencil will move out of place, but since it does have the little ridges along the 2 sides, the stencil sits right up against that edge and it doesn't move. And look at that beautiful design. I really like the look of the 2 different yellows for the sunflower. Using the leftover brown ink that's on my blender brush, I'm adding it to the center of all the sunflowers. The hardest part about using this stencil was cutting down this design to fit on an A2 size card. But I did cut down that panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'll layer it on some dark brown cardstock. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base. I decided to keep the overall card design fairly simple since I really don't want to cover up the beautiful sunflowers. For a sentiment, I'm using the alphabet die set from Jaded Blossom. I have the word hello, and I'll be adding that sentiment on some label shape die cuts. I cut the larger size out of the dark brown cardstock and then used a yellow cardstock for that smaller portion. The letters I also cut out from some dark brown cardstock. I'll adhere the 2 label die cut pieces together using liquid adhesive. Then I added some foam dimension on the back to pop it up. I'll use my reverse tweezers to hold the letters, add a little bit of liquid adhesive on the back, and adhere them onto the yellow label die cut. And I thought it would be fun to put them at an angle instead of going straight across. So 1 final letter for the word hello. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm using some Sequins from Spellbinders. This is their Peach Opalescent color. It has this beautiful iridescent finish on it. And I love that there are 3 different sizes of sequins. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick those up, adding just a small drop of liquid adhesive and pressing them in place. So there is my finished card, and I did end up making a total of 4. 2 of the cards are the traditional yellow sunflower, and for the other 2 cards, I added a little bit of red to that very inside petal. Tulips are my favorite flower, but next it's sunflowers. They're so beautiful, and I love all the different varieties that are out there. Now moving on to card design number 2. I'll be using some pattern paper from Doodlebug Design. This is an older collection called Fall Friends. It was released in 2015, so it's no longer available. I'm just trying to use up some older collections. I selected this fun floral and leaf pattern paper for the background, adding a strip of green leaf tone-on-tone paper across the card. For a little extra sparkle, I'm using some Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is the gold holographic color in the pinstripe style. I'll wrap the ends around the back, add some ATG tape on the back of this panel, and layer it on some brown cardstock. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Next, I'll be adding 2 tag die cuts, and these are from Jaded Blossom's Luggage Tag Die Set. I have one in the same brown cardstock and the other from some yellow cardstock. I adhere the 2 pieces together, just offsetting them slightly. and then I'll pop up the entire tag using some foam dimension. Remove the release paper and adhere it to the center of my card. And I'm adhering it so the yellow tag is straight on the card. Now it's time to start assembling my gnome. This gnome will be wearing the new pilgrim hat. I cut out the silhouette piece of the boy gnome from some white cardstock, and it really doesn't matter what color cardstock you use for this piece since you will cover all of it up. It just helps provide placement for all the other pieces to assemble your gnome. I'll attach the beard first, and I use some brown cardstock. Then I'll adhere the pilgrim hat. And the pilgrim hat is a different size than what's on the silhouette hat for the gnome, so you will need to trim that part down. Next, I'll be giving my little gnome some shoes to wear. Before adhering those in place, I did put some small scrap pieces of cardstock on those little round stubs, just to keep everything nice and level. Then I attach the shoes. Now I'll finish the pilgrim hat. There are several different dies for the hat, so you can have all that fun stitch detail. I have the white band that goes across the hat and then the large buckle. I use some gold pearlescent cardstock for that. So it has just that little bit of shimmer. I cut out the mustache from the same dark brown cardstock, and I'll adhere that using liquid adhesive. For the nose, I did put some foam dimension on the back. Then I'll adhere that right above the mustache. Now this gnome will be holding a pumpkin pie. There are several different objects you can have your gnome hold, but I thought this gnome needed the pumpkin pie. I first cut out the outline from some white cardstock, and that piece does have the placement for the hands, but I decided to trim it off. Sometimes I like to add the hands in different areas, although it's kind of funny since I did end up putting those hands in the exact same spot. I used some silver pearlescent cardstock for the pan of the pie and some white glitter cardstock for the whipped cream. And I will be popping up the pumpkin pie using some foam dimension. So remove the release paper and add the pie on top of the gnome. Next I'll add the hands, and I'm using some slightly thicker foam dimension for the hands. Just putting it on the very back side of the hand, not near the fingers. Then I'll add just that little bit of liquid adhesive on the fingers and attach both those hands onto the lower area of the pie. Now that my gnome is all assembled, I can add him to the yellow tag. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere him in place. And the top of his hat will cover up the hole in the tag. For the sentiment, I've already stamped it out, give thanks and eat pie. I used the coordinating outline die, and I did cut out a second piece from the same brown cardstock. Glue those two pieces together, just offsetting them slightly so I have that brown cardstock drop shadow. I'll put some foam dimension on the back side. Part of it will sit on top of the tags, but the other area won't. So in the area where it does sit on top of that tag, I'll use liquid adhesive. And I'll adhere that in the upper right-hand corner. For embellishments on my card, I'm using some Honeybee Stamps gem stickers, just adding 3 of them around the little gnome. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add some highlights to my gnome using a white gel pen. I'll add some to the hat, to the shoes, the nose, and also to the pumpkin pie. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I absolutely love the Gnome Die sets from Jaded Blossom, and it's so fun seeing all the different add-on sets they release. Now moving on to card design number 3. I'm using the same Doodlebug pattern paper. I have some fun fall plaid paper for the background, adding a strip of this brown pattern paper with some faint circles on the background. I use Jaded Blossom's border dies for that scallop border going on the left side of that brown strip. And I did cut that out from some pattern paper. It's a very small blue tone-on-tone polka dot design. On the right side of that brown pattern paper, I will add a Love from Lizi peel off. This is the gold holographic color in the pinstripe style. I'm using the medium width. Just wrap those ends around the back, put some ATG tape on the back of this panel and layer it on some brown cardstock. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next I'll add a white oval stitch die cut, glue it down on the left side of the card using liquid adhesive. And now I have my sweet little girl gnome, and I've already assembled most of her. I still need to give her something to hold, and I'll also embellish her hat just a little bit. Before adhering her to the oval, I did put some foam dimension on the back side. My little girl gnome will be holding an ear of corn. I cut out the main outline piece from some white cardstock. You can see it has those little hand hold placement areas. Now I'll add all of the other die cut pieces to bring life to that ear of corn. I did glue down the very end of the corn first, the small brown piece. Then I realized the yellow piece needs to go down first, then add the very end of the corn on top of that. Then finally I can add the two sides of the husk. And I use some green cardstock that coordinates with the pattern paper. Once those are all in place, I can attach the hands. I am putting those small scrap pieces of cardstock down first before gluing the hands in place. I like to use a variety of different skin tone colors. The cardstock I'm using for this little girl and some of the other gnomes in this video is from a paper pad by P13, and I will add a link in the description box. I'll add some foam dimension on the back side of the corn and adhere it to the little girl gnome. So now she's holding that really large ear of corn. There was an area where I could see some of the white cardstock from that background, so I was just trying to cut that away using my scissors. For a little extra embellishment on her hat, I'm adding a little sunflower, and this is from Jaded Blossom's Fall Banner die set. Next, I used the Farm Scenic die set and cut out 3 of the wheat stalks from some green cardstock, and I'm pretending those are corn stalks instead of wheat. I'll add 2 of them on the right side of the card and 1 on the left tucked behind the little girl. And I am popping up the very end of the corn stalk using some foam dimension. For the stalk on the left where I tucked it behind the little girl, I did trim off the very bottom of the stem just so it wasn't as tall on that left side. Then I use liquid adhesive to adhere the lower portion of the stalks in place. For this sentiment, I've already stamped this out, just a little corny card to say hello. I had to use this sentiment since it's my favorite on the entire set. I did pop up the sentiment using some foam dimension. Now I'll add some of the highlights using a white gel pen, putting them on the little girl, the ear of corn, and also my corn stalks. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few gem stickers. This is from that same Honeybee Stamp set. I'm trying to use up some of these older products that I've had in my craft room. At least the packs of bling don't take up a lot of extra space. So there is my finished card, and again I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 4, I'll be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sketch Saturday. It's number 666. Just to save time on this video, I've already used the Acorn Stencil to decorate the background of the card. I used 2 different brown Catherine Pooler ink colors. For the pattern paper on this card, I'm using a couple of Doodlebug's petite print sets. Decided to go with the brown diagonal stripes for that wider piece, and then a teal grid design for that smaller piece. Next, I'll add this fun wavy die cut piece that I cut out from some gold mirror cardstock. And this die is part of Jaded Blossom's border die set. I'll adhere it in place using some liquid adhesive, and the die cut piece is wider than my card. Once I have it attached, I'll simply flip over that panel and trim off the extra so it's flush to the right and left side. And you can see on the back side of the craft cardstock, I was playing around with the stencil, trying to figure out what colors I wanted. And since the cardstock is thick enough, the ink doesn't show through, I was able to simply flip over that panel for the final design. Next, I'll add the teal pattern paper piece, and I simply cut the very end using my scissors. For the image box, I have some white cardstock, layered it on the same dark brown cardstock. I'll adhere that in place using some liquid adhesive. And for the image on this card, I'm adding the sunflower, and this is part of the Gnome Thanksgiving add-on set. I love all the different images you can have your gnomes hold, but you can also use those dies on their own without the gnome. So I thought it would be fun to add a little sunflower to the card. I used some pattern paper for the petals of the sunflower, and I used some gold mirror cardstock for the background, so those seeds are really shiny. I did pop up the top portion of the sunflower using some foam dimension, then glued down the stem using liquid adhesive. For the sentiment on this card, I'm using Jaded Blossom's Give Thanks Stamp and Coordinating Die Set. This was part of their fall release from last year. I've already stamped and cut it out, put some foam dimension on the back side, and adhered it underneath my little image panel. Then to finish off the card, I added some more of the Honeybee Stamps gem stickers. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 5, I have some white cardstock for the background. I added some really fun detail using a pink Fresh Studio die called Sparkling Diamonds. At the very bottom of the card, I'm adding a strip of white cardstock just for that little bit of separation from that detailed background. I am putting a Love from Lizi peel off between those 2 pieces. This is the straight design, so it's a little bit wider, and it has a gold foil finish on the edge. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And I do want to mention, after I assembled this card, I noticed the card front started pulling away from the card base. Sometimes when you have a very detailed background, maybe an embossed background, it's a good idea to add a little extra adhesive. So I did remove that card front and add a little bit of liquid adhesive. Now it's staying all together. For this card, I'll have the boy gnome, and he's going to be all dressed up like a turkey. I thought it would be fun to have some teal for the turkey feathers. For the very background piece of the feathers, I used some dark teal cardstock. I have a lighter teal for each of the feathers. And for the stripes on each of the feathers, I used some fun specialty cardstock that has an iridescent finish. I'll adhere all of those pieces using some liquid adhesive. And I did speed up this portion quite a bit. Lots of me gluing die cut pieces down. I have just a few more of those stripes for the feathers. I've already assembled most of my boy gnome. He currently doesn't have any hands. But first I'll attach him to those turkey feathers. Just use some liquid adhesive. I'll put some foam dimension on the back side of the gnome, just in the areas where the turkey feathers aren't. So the very top of the hat and then the bottom of its feet and beard. Then I'll use liquid adhesive for the rest and adhere my turkey gnome on the left side of my card. I've already assembled the turkey leg, and that's what the gnome will be holding. I did pop it up with some foam dimension. So first I attach the turkey leg, and now I'll add the hands. And now the really fun part, adding the face to the gnome's hat to create the rest of the turkey. It's so funny that you can never see the eyes of the gnomes, but to create the little turkey hat, you do add eyes onto the hat, and I think that is just hilarious. I love the look of the teal feathers with the orange hat. I think they work really well together. The sentiment I've already stamped out, Happy Thanksgiving to my Gnomie, and I did put some foam dimension on the back side. I'll adhere it in the upper right hand corner. Then to finish off the card, I'll add some white gem stickers, put 3 of them around the sentiment and 2 in the lower left hand corner, and I'll also use the white gel pen to add the highlights to the hat, the turkey leg, and of course the gnome. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the look of the vibrant teal and orange against the white background. Now here's another look at the 2 treat boxes and 12 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new mini Thanksgiving release. If you are interested in any of the products I use in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. This is such a fun release, but I look forward to all of Jaded Blossom releases. They have so many fun stamp, die, and stencil sets, and I love that their products are made in the US. I was never a fan of gnomes until Jaded Blossom came out with their Gnome Dies, and now they are some of my favorite cards to make. And I know there are other people that are the same way. They weren't fans of gnomes, but now they love them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.